Listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change how you think about building wealth. Most people believe the secret to getting rich is working harder, saving more, or finding the perfect investment. They're wrong. The ultra-wealthy operate on an entirely different frequency, and the difference isn't what you think. It's not about money at all. It's about time. Here's the truth nobody tells you. While you're trading hours for dollars, billionaires have inverted the entire equation. They've discovered that time is the ultimate currency, and they've built empires by manipulating, multiplying, and monetizing every single second. This isn't philosophy. This is the practical foundation of wealth multiplication that separates those earning 6 figures from those building 9-figure fortunes. Warren Buffett said it perfectly. Time is more valuable than money. You can get more money, but you cannot get more time. Yeah, but here's what he didn't say in that quote, and what I'm going to show you today is exactly how the ultra-rich weaponize this principle. They've created systems, frameworks, and decision-making matrices that allow them to work fewer hours than ambitious corporate climbers while generating hundreds, even thousands of times more value. That's not luck. That's leverage. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how they do it. But before we go deeper, let me be direct with you. If you're serious about understanding how wealth actually works, if you're committed to thinking like the ultra-rich instead of just dreaming about their lifestyle, then hit that subscribe button right now. This isn't just another finance channel. This is where we decode the actual psychology, the actual strategies, the actual insider frameworks that billionaires use, but never discuss publicly. The information I'm sharing today took me years to compile from studying hundreds of ultra-high net worth individuals. Don't let this knowledge disappear into your algorithm. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this with someone who's ready to level up. Because what you're about to learn, most people will never understand in their entire lifetime. Now let me take you inside the mind of someone who cracked this code. His name was Andrew Carnegie, and his story illustrates the fundamental principle that separates wealth builders from wage earners. In 1873, Carnegie was already successful, running several steel mills and generating substantial income. But he noticed something that troubled him. He was working 16-hour days, personally overseeing operations, making endless decisions, and despite his wealth, he felt trapped. He had money, but he had no time. And Carnegie understood something most people never grasp. Wealth without time isn't wealth at all. It's just a better-paying prison. So Carnegie did something radical. He stepped back from daily operations entirely and installed professional managers to run his steel empire. His partners were horrified. They told him the business would collapse without his direct involvement. They said no one could make decisions like he could. They warned him he was risking everything. Carnegie ignored them all. Instead, he spent the next decade reading, traveling, writing, and thinking strategically about the future of industry. He appeared, to outsiders, almost retired. His managers worked 80-hour weeks while Carnegie spent months in Scotland playing golf. But here's what happened. By removing himself from the day-to-day grind, Carnegie could see patterns his competitors missed. He identified technological innovations before they became obvious. He predicted market shifts and positioned his companies accordingly. He made billion-dollar strategic decisions because he had time to think. Meanwhile, his competitors, working twice as many hours, were too buried in operations to see the future coming. By 1900, Carnegie's empire was worth $480 million, equivalent to roughly $370 billion in today's money, making him the richest man in the world at that time. He didn't get there by working more hours. He got there by multiplying his time through other people's labor. This is the billionaire's secret. They've mastered what I call time multiplication. And the framework they use is something you need to understand right now, because it's the difference between trading time for money and building generational wealth. Let me introduce you to the Delegation Matrix. This is the tool ultra-high net worth individuals use to decide what deserves their attention and what doesn't. Imagine dividing every task in your life into 4 quadrants based on 2 dimensions: value generation and personal competence. Most people never think this way. They just do whatever feels urgent. The wealthy are ruthless. They only give personal attention to tasks that fall into the high-value, high-competence quadrant. Everything else, and I mean everything, becomes a candidate for delegation, automation, or complete elimination. This creates what seems like a mathematical impossibility. Self-made billionaires often work fewer hours than mid-level managers climbing corporate ladders, yet they generate exponentially more value. How? Because their time has been multiplied through leverage. 1 hour of their focused attention creates results that would take an average person hundreds or thousands of hours to achieve. Now let me show you how the math actually works, because once you see these numbers, you'll never look at your time the same way again. If you're a founder or entrepreneur generating $25,000 to $75,000 monthly, your time is worth approximately $100 to $250 per hour. If you're at $200,000 or more in monthly revenue, a single hour of your time is valued at $500 to $1,500. These aren't arbitrary numbers. This is the actual calculation wealthy individuals use to make every single delegation decision. So let's run a real scenario. Imagine you're a high-level executive and your time is worth $500 per hour. You're spending 15 hours per week managing email, scheduling meetings, handling correspondence. That's reasonable, right? Most professionals do exactly this. But here's what you're actually doing. You're losing $7,500 every single week. That's $390,000 annually. You're burning almost $400,000 per year by not delegating a task that a virtual assistant could handle for $3,000 to $5,000 monthly. This isn't an expense. This is an investment with immediate return on investment. You spend $60,000 annually to free up $390,000 in high-value time. That's a 500% return minimum. And yet most people hesitate. They tell themselves they can't afford help. The reality? They can't afford not to get help. The reluctance to delegate comes from two psychological traps. First, perfectionism, the belief that nobody can do it as well as you can. Second, the false calculation that training someone takes longer than just doing it yourself. Both of these are correct in the immediate short term, but catastrophically wrong in the long term. Delegation creates compounding time multiplication effects. The first week, yes, training takes longer. But by week 4, you've broken even. By week 12, you're operating at 10 times your previous capacity. By week 52, you've unlocked an entirely new tier of wealth generation that was literally impossible when you were trapped in operational work. Let me show you how the greatest wealth builders in history have actually applied this. Warren Buffett runs Berkshire Hathaway, one of the largest companies on earth, yet he has more free time than most retirees. How? Through what he calls the 5/25 rule, a discipline he learned from his personal pilot, Mike Flint. The process is deceptively simple, but devastatingly effective. Write down 25 career goals. Circle your top 5. Now here's the key. Forget the other 20 completely. And when Buffett says forget, he doesn't mean make them secondary priorities. He means treat them as distractions to be actively avoided at all costs. Buffett has institutionalized this ruthless prioritization across his entire life. He eliminates almost all traditional CEO tasks from his calendar. He never talks to analysts. He skips nearly every meeting he possibly can. His routine is absurdly simple. Mornings spent reading and thinking, consuming roughly 80% of his day. Lunch, often at McDonald's, keeping it efficient and consistent. Afternoons reserved for the few business meetings and deep work sessions that actually matter. Evenings with family and hobbies. By killing busy work, Buffett has created more discretionary time than most people will have in retirement, despite running a $600 billion enterprise. But here's what most people miss. Buffett didn't stumble into this lifestyle. He designed it through strategic elimination. He follows what he calls the world's most powerful decision-making framework. Focus, not balance, not hustle. Focus. He obsessively protects his time because he understands that attention is the scarcest resource a human possesses. Money can be earned back. Opportunities come and go. But a lost hour is gone forever. This inversion of priorities, placing time above money, is the philosophical foundation of his wealth. Now contrast this with how Jeff Bezos manipulates time. Bezos runs one of the most complex operations in human history, yet his approach seems almost lazy to outsiders. He wakes naturally around 6:30 or 7 in the morning without an alarm. He spends the first hour screen-free. He reads the newspaper in physical form, not digital. He has breakfast with his family slowly, without rushing. He only checks email lightly, if at all. His mornings are deliberately unhurried, and this seems absurd, right? The CEO of Amazon should be grinding from 4 a.m., checking metrics, answering emails, crushing it. But Bezos understands something most people don't. Quality decision-making requires a well-rested brain. Bezos has stated explicitly that this morning routine is sacred because it sets the tone for better decisions throughout the entire day. A 90-minute period of relaxation and reading, rather than jumping immediately into work, creates a cognitive advantage that compounds across every decision he makes. He's not optimizing for looking busy. He's optimizing for decision quality. And when you're making decisions that move billions of dollars, improving your decision quality by even 5% is worth millions. But Bezos goes further. At Amazon, he institutionalized his time philosophy through what's called the working backwards process. Instead of building products and hoping customers love them, which wastes enormous time and resources, Amazon teams start by writing a press release describing the desired customer outcome. Then they work backward to determine what actually needs to be built. This system prevents wasted time on wrong solutions. As Bezos noted, done correctly, working backwards is huge work, but it saves you even more work later. He's trading upfront strategic time for exponential time savings in execution. Most companies do the opposite and wonder why they're always behind schedule. Then there's Mark Zuckerberg, and his approach reveals a different dimension of time manipulation, decision fatigue reduction. Zuckerberg wears the same grey t-shirt and hoodie every single day. Not because he lacks fashion sense or doesn't care about appearance. It's a deliberate sacrifice of minor choices to preserve mental energy for major decisions. He also uses time blocking to organize his day into focused work sessions and keeps his schedule intentionally light compared to most executives. The psychology here is sophisticated. Every decision depletes a finite pool of mental energy. Scientists call this ego depletion. Studies show that judges grant significantly more parole early in the day and far fewer as the day progresses. Same judges, same courtroom, different times of day. The only variable is decision fatigue. By automating trivial choices like clothing and meals, Zuckerberg preserves his decision-making capacity for high-stakes product strategy and business decisions that actually move his company forward. Most importantly, Zuckerberg actively resists overscheduling. He told Stripe co-founder John Collison that being overscheduled frustrates him and puts him in a bad mood, so he intentionally leaves large blocks of time free. This allows him to focus on the top 3 priorities that emerge each day, rather than being trapped in pre-scheduled commitments made weeks ago that may no longer be relevant. He's protecting his time against his past self's inability to predict the future. Bill Gates offers yet another time manipulation strategy. He treats learning as a non-negotiable time investment. Gates reads 50 books per year, approximately 1 per week. To most people, this sounds like leisure, something you do if you have spare time. Gates treats it as critical infrastructure for decision-making. He begins each day with an hour of exercise on the treadmill while consuming news through major publications, then dedicates substantial daily time to reading and thinking. This isn't productivity theater. Gates recognizes that the return on 1 hour spent absorbing other people's research, insights, and decades of work compounds dramatically over time. A person who reads consistently gains exponential informational advantage over those who don't. By 2024, Gates had consumed knowledge from thousands of books. His decision-making framework is vastly more sophisticated than someone who hasn't read a book since college. He's essentially downloaded the expertise of thousands of the world's brightest minds. That's leverage. 1 hour of reading might prevent a $1 million mistake or reveal a $1 billion opportunity. Steve Jobs understood another critical aspect of time manipulation: eliminating micro-decisions. Jobs wore the same black turtleneck, blue jeans, and New Balance sneakers for 15 years straight. People thought it was about branding, but Jobs explicitly stated it was about decision fatigue. He told his biographer, Walter Isaacson, that he wanted to minimize decisions about trivial things because he had too many other important decisions to make. President Barack Obama later explained the same principle. I don't want to make decisions about what I'm eating or wearing because I have too many other decisions to make. Research backs this up. The average person makes 35,000 decisions per day. By eliminating hundreds of trivial decisions about clothing, food, and basic routines, both Jobs and Obama freed up mental energy for decisions that actually mattered. Jobs was deciding the future of consumer technology. Obama was deciding matters of war and peace. They couldn't afford to waste cognitive resources on choosing socks. Richard Branson takes a completely different angle on time manipulation, energy management. Branson wakes at 5 a.m. and immediately exercises. Tennis, running, kite surfing. He eats breakfast with his family, then tackles work. But here's the key. He structures meetings to last no more than 10 minutes. He prefers standing meetings because they naturally encourage brevity. He often conducts meetings while walking outdoors. And most importantly, Branson sleeps 7 hours every night and refuses to overwork. This seems counterintuitive. Shouldn't successful people sacrifice sleep and work constantly? No. Studies show that working more than 6 hours daily on cognitively demanding tasks significantly reduces creativity, motivation, and decision-making quality. Branson understands that effectiveness isn't measured by hours logged. It's measured by energy preserved and priorities managed. For Branson, free time isn't a luxury. It's fuel for growth and innovation. He's not resting despite his success. He's successful because he rests. Now, if you're still watching and these patterns are clicking into place for you, let me challenge you to do something. Pause this video for 5 seconds and leave a comment telling me, what's the biggest time trap you're stuck in right now? Are you drowning in email? Trapped in endless meetings? Doing tasks you know someone else should handle? Drop a comment because I read every single one, and more importantly, articulating your trap is the first step to escaping it. Seriously, do it now. I'll wait. All right, now let's go even deeper, because what I've shown you so far is how individual billionaires manipulate their personal time. But the real secret, the thing that separates the ultra-wealthy from everyone else, is understanding the 4 types of leverage. This framework comes from Naval Ravikant, founder of AngelList and an early investor in companies like Uber and Twitter. Naval articulated how wealthy individuals escape the time for money trap entirely. There are 4 distinct types of leverage, and understanding each one will fundamentally change how you approach wealth building. The first is labor leverage. This is the oldest form, the one Carnegie used. Instead of doing work yourself, you get other people to work for you. You hire employees, outsource to freelancers, build teams. Your time is multiplied by the number of people working toward your vision. 1 hour of your strategic thinking is executed by 10, 50, 500 people. This is powerful, but it requires management, which itself consumes time. The second is capital leverage. This is using borrowed or invested money to generate returns without proportional time investment. Real estate investors use this constantly. You put down 20% on a property. The bank finances 80%, and you collect returns on the entire asset value. Entrepreneurs raising venture capital are doing the same thing. They're multiplying their time and effort with other people's money. Capital leverage is how investors and entrepreneurs with financial backing multiply returns exponentially. The third type is where things get really interesting. Code and media leverage. This is creating products with no marginal cost of replication. Software, books, podcasts, videos, online courses. Once created, these assets generate income indefinitely without additional time investment from you. A software engineer spends 40 hours building an app that 1 million people use. That engineer has leveraged their time 1 million times over. This is the most powerful modern form of leverage because it requires no one's permission and scales infinitely. You don't need investors to approve your YouTube channel. You don't need employees to write your ebook. You just create it once, and it works for you forever. The fourth type is attention and influence leverage, building audiences, brands, and networks that amplify every single action you take. When a celebrity endorses a product, that endorsement has value far beyond the 60 seconds it took to make. Kim Kardashian posts one Instagram photo and moves markets. That's attention leverage. Elon Musk tweets and billions of dollars shift in valuation. That's influence leverage. Here's Naval's critical insight. Without leverage, your inputs are directly tied to your outputs. A lawyer works 8 hours and earns 8 hours of income. A doctor sees 30 patients and earns 30 patients' worth of revenue. But with leverage, particularly code and media leverage, this connection breaks completely. 1 hour building a system can be worth more than 1,000 hours working a job. This is how time becomes infinite wealth. Let me give you a concrete example of how this plays out. In 2004, Mark Zuckerberg was a college student. He spent a few months building Facebook in his dorm room. That initial time investment, maybe 500 to 1,000 hours total, has generated trillions of dollars in value. His time was leveraged billions of times over through code. The application runs on servers, serving billions of users, generating revenue every second without Mark writing another line of code for that original platform. That's code leverage at scale. Compare that to a surgeon. Even the world's best surgeon, working 16-hour days, performing 2 surgeries per day, 300 days per year, will perform 600 surgeries annually. Over a 40-year career, that's 24,000 surgeries. Impressive, meaningful work. But it's linear. Every surgery requires the surgeon's direct time. There's no multiplication. The surgeon trades time for money their entire career. Mark spent a few months building a platform that now operates without his direct time involvement. That's the difference between linear and leveraged wealth. Now let's talk about how the wealthy manipulate time in investing, because this is where things get truly fascinating. The ultra-rich don't just manage their personal hours, they manipulate investment time horizons to create what's called time arbitrage. Time arbitrage means maintaining a longer-term perspective than average investors. While most people fixate on quarterly earnings reports and short-term volatility, billionaires are looking 3 to 5 years out, positioning themselves in quality businesses that are temporarily out of favor. Warren Buffett said, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient." This isn't metaphorical, it's literal wealth transfer. Present bias, the human tendency to favor immediate rewards over significantly larger future ones, affects nearly everyone. Classic behavioral economics experiments show people prefer $100 today over $120 in 1 week, even though waiting just 7 days yields a 20% return. But when you ask those same people if they'd prefer $100 in 1 year or $120 in 1 year and 1 week, suddenly they become patient. They'll wait the extra week for the larger amount. This reveals a cognitive bias. People discount the future irrationally when it's close, but properly value it when it's distant. By overcoming this present bias and valuing future returns appropriately, venture capitalists and long-term investors reap outsized rewards that impatient investors pass up. Amazon dropped 90% after the dot-com crash in 2001. Most investors panicked and sold. Those who held, understanding the long-term value, enjoyed returns of over 20,000% over the next 2 decades. Apple faced existential crises in the early 2000s, with its stock trading under $1 per share. Long-term believers became extraordinarily wealthy. Time arbitrage, simply being willing to wait when others panic, separated billionaires from everyone else. The psychological shift required here cannot be overstated. Most people operate with time scarcity thinking. They unconsciously feel there's never enough time, leading to constant rushing, short-term decision-making, and reactive behavior. This scarcity mindset creates a cognitive load that consumes attention and decision-making capacity. You're always in survival mode, never in building mode. In contrast, wealthy individuals think in terms of time abundance and leverage. When you believe time is finite but can be multiplied through others and through systems, you make fundamentally different choices. You delegate without guilt. You automate without hesitation. You invest in systems knowing they'll pay back exponentially. You trade money for time without a second thought because you understand that money is renewable, but time is not. This mindset extends to how the wealthy think about income generation. Most people ask, "How do I earn more per hour?" The wealthy ask, How do I create systems that generate money without my direct involvement? This shift from linear to exponential thinking is the single most transformative mental model you can adopt. Let me introduce you to what Dan Martell calls the buyback principle. This is the systematic framework wealthy people use to buy back their lives. It consists of 3 steps, and if you implement this, you'll immediately begin operating like someone in a higher wealth bracket. Step 1. Conduct a time audit. Document everything you do in a day. Be ruthless. Every email, every meeting, every task. Now circle only what you absolutely must personally do because of unique expertise or relationships. Everything else becomes a delegation candidate. Most people discover that 70 to 80% of their daily activities could be done by someone else. Step 2. Apply the 80% rule. Only delegate tasks someone else can do to 80% of your capability level. This is critical. Perfectionism kills delegation. You think, nobody can do this as well as I can, and you're probably right. But they can do it to 80%, and 80% is enough. Delegation isn't about perfect replication. It's about freeing yourself for higher value work. Would you rather spend 10 hours doing something perfectly that generates $1,000, or spend 2 hours on strategy that generates $10,000, while someone else handles the operational work at 80% quality? Step 3. Manage energy, not just time. Track which tasks drain your energy versus which ones energize you. Some activities, even if they don't take much time, leave you mentally exhausted. Others, even if time-intensive, leave you energized and creative. By eliminating energy-draining tasks, you preserve the mental and physical stamina necessary for high-impact work. A CEO who spends mornings in back-to-back status meetings arrives at afternoon strategy sessions already depleted. A CEO who delegates those status meetings and spends mornings in deep work arrives at strategy sessions with full cognitive capacity. The difference is exponential. The science supports this completely. Research from the University of British Columbia and Harvard Business School found that working adults report significantly greater life satisfaction after spending money on time-saving purchases than on material purchases. Buying time doesn't just make you wealthier, it makes you measurably happier. The study showed that people who spent money to save time, whether hiring cleaners, ordering delivery, or paying for services, reported lower stress and greater life satisfaction than those who spent equivalent money on material goods. Now let's talk about the Pareto principle, because this might be the most important wealth concept you've never properly applied. The 80-20 rule states that 80% of results come from 20% of efforts. For billionaires, this means identifying the 20% of activities that generate 80% of wealth and pouring nearly all time allocation into those activities. This isn't theoretical. Let me show you the math. High-leverage skills like software development, digital marketing, sales, and content creation allow one person to create value that scales without proportional time investment. According to recent data, software engineers earn a median of $124,000 to $147,000 annually, nearly double the median household income of roughly $80,000. But here's what those numbers don't show. A software engineer isn't just earning more per hour. They're earning more because their work impacts thousands or millions of people simultaneously. A retail worker serves one customer at a time. A software engineer builds a system that serves 1 million customers simultaneously. The time investment is similar, but the leverage is exponentially different. This is why certain professions seem to generate disproportionate wealth. They're not just harder jobs, they're leveraged jobs. Let me give you the real income calculation that changes everything. For a founder generating $200,000 in monthly revenue, every hour of their time costs $500 to $1,500 in opportunity cost. Let's break down what this means in practice. If you're spending 3 hours weekly managing email, you're losing $1,500 to $7,500 monthly. Manually posting to social media, $800 to $2,000 monthly. Handling your own bookkeeping, $1,500 to $3,000 monthly. The cumulative cost of staying in the weeds easily exceeds $10,000 to $12,000 monthly in hidden opportunity costs. Now here's the move the wealthy make. They look at these calculations and see them not as expenses to avoid, but as investments with immediate returns. A $3,000 to $5,000 monthly investment in a virtual assistant yields $10,000 to $12,000 in freed-up time value. That's a 200 to 400% return on investment every single month. Show me another investment vehicle that returns 300% monthly with near zero risk. But most people never make this move because they're thinking like employees, not like wealth builders. An employee thinks, I can't afford to spend $5,000 monthly. A wealth builder thinks, I can't afford not to spend $5,000 monthly. Because every month I delay costs me $10,000 in opportunity cost. Let me show you how this plays out at scale. Beyoncé's empire illustrates time multiplication through systems. Through Parkwood Entertainment, she didn't just perform, she productized her entire movement. She licenses choreography, stage design, visual concepts. Her Renaissance tour generated over $2 billion in revenue. But here's what's critical. That revenue came from systems that monetized every single action, created scarcity and brand value, and built multiple income streams from her attention and creativity. She's not just trading time for money, she built a machine that generates wealth while she sleeps. Oprah did the same thing, but differently. Most people think Oprah built wealth through her talk show salary. Wrong. She built wealth through ownership and leverage. She created Harpo Productions, owning her content rather than being an employee. She made strategic investments in companies like Weight Watchers, acquiring 10% ownership that later appreciated over 1,000%. She signed content deals with Apple, creating income streams that continue generating revenue long after the initial work. She invested in real estate, buying properties that appreciate passively. The pattern is clear. The ultra-wealthy don't just manage their personal time, they systematize it. They create platforms, products, and systems that generate income with minimal ongoing time investment. 1 hour building a system is leveraged infinitely across time. Here's the time arbitrage advantage that brings this all together. The ultra-rich have discovered what most people never will. Time is the real currency underlying all wealth. Money is merely a tool to buy more time. Once you have sufficient capital, every financial decision becomes a time decision. Warren Buffett buys back his time by hiring the world's best managers to run his companies while he reads and thinks. Jeff Bezos buys back his time through systems design and delegation, allowing him to focus on the few strategic decisions that actually matter. Bill Gates multiplies his impact through patient capital deployment, waiting decades for compounding to work its magic. Mark Zuckerberg reduces decision fatigue to preserve energy for the product vision that drives billions in value. Richard Branson prioritizes rest and exercise to maintain the creativity and energy that fuel innovation. None of them work harder than ambitious middle managers. They think differently about time. They manipulate it through leverage, multiplication, systems, and strategic delegation. They understand viscerally that a lost hour is gone forever, irretrievable, but a lost dollar can be earned back tomorrow, next week, next year. This inversion of priorities, placing time above money, is the philosophical secret that separates billionaires from everyone else. So what does this mean for you? If you're serious about building real wealth, the first step isn't earning more money. It's recognizing that every single hour of your life has an opportunity cost. Calculate that cost accurately. Be honest about what your time is worth or should be worth. Then become absolutely ruthless about defending and multiplying your time through whatever means are available to you. Delegation, automation, systems, and strategic leverage. The ultra-rich didn't become wealthy by trading time for money. That's the trap most people never escape. They became wealthy by multiplying time itself. By understanding that 1 hour invested in building a system is worth 1,000 hours of direct labor. By recognizing that hiring someone to handle low-value tasks isn't an expense, it's the highest returning investment they'll ever make. By treating their attention and energy as the scarcest, most valuable resources they possess. Here's your action step, and I want you to take this seriously. Tonight, before you go to bed, conduct a time audit. Write down everything you did today and how long it took. Tomorrow, do the same thing. By day 3, you'll see patterns. You'll identify the time traps The low-value tasks consuming your highest-value resource. Circle the activities only you can do. Everything else, start planning how to delegate, automate, or eliminate. If you're generating any meaningful income, calculate your hourly value. Take your monthly revenue, divide by 160 hours, and that's your baseline hourly worth. Now look at your time audit. How many hours are you spending on tasks worth less than your hourly rate? That's money you're burning. That's wealth you're destroying. Every hour you spend doing work someone else could do for $50 when your time is worth $500, you're losing $450. It's not theoretical, it's real wealth evaporating because you haven't made the mental shift yet. The wealthiest people on earth have made this shift. They've inverted the equation. They've stopped trading time for money and started trading money for time. They've built systems, hired teams, created leverage, and multiplied their hours through other people's labor and through technology. That's how you go from earning 6 figures to building 8- and 9-figure wealth. That's how you go from being busy to being free. That's how you stop working in your business and start working on your empire. And if you found value in what I've shared today, if these frameworks are changing how you think about wealth, then do 2 things for me. First, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone grinding 16-hour days, but not building real wealth. Someone talented but trapped in the time for money equation. Send them this video. It might be the most valuable thing you share all year. Second, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because this is just the beginning. Next week, I'm breaking down the exact psychological frameworks billionaires use to make decisions under uncertainty. The week after that, I'm revealing the wealth compounding strategies most financial advisors will never tell you, because they don't serve their business model. This isn't content you can afford to miss if you're serious about building generational wealth. Remember, the difference between where you are now and where you want to be isn't more hours in the day. It's how you multiply the hours you already have. Time is the ultimate currency. The ultra-rich understand this. Now you do too. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I'm William Vanderbilt, and I'll see you in the next one.